there's really three things on the business side that are probably the biggest that I'm aware of today that'll impact small business. And there's actually a couple things on the personal impact side that may impact a business as well. So probably the biggest and the one that has most of the accountants jumping up and down on is the bonus depreciation. If you're making a CapEx spend and you can take 100% of the value of that in the year you make it, that's going to have a positive impact on the business. And that's going to incentivize businesses that are maybe a little bit capital constrained to go ahead and make those CapEx decisions because they can take the depreciation in the year that they make it. And that'll offset maybe a good year of income to allow lower taxes. So that's going to really have a positive impact. And the other piece of that is today there's multi-year depreciation. And this will just allow them, again, to live their future faster as far as the tax benefits. The other is the R&D tax credit. So small businesses are challenged to really do a lot of R&D because it's costly. And under the prior laws, that required a 5-year amortization of that R&D expense. So even if you capitalize it, you can't expense it in the year that you spent it. So you've got to recapture that over the ensuing 5 years. Now you will be able to capture it in the year you make the spend, which will incentivize businesses, particularly small and medium-sized businesses, to actually do some R&D. And we've seen some of that in the space that we deal with now, where they're coming out with incremental product lines and things like that. They're going to be more willing to do that. And here's an interesting one: is if you're building a structure for 100% manufacturing, that's going to be an expense that you can deduct right away as well. So that is really going to be big for small manufacturing that has the ability to go ahead and put up a manufacturing only structure. That'll spark some both manufacturing and some construction business through that impact. Now, let's talk about a couple of the personal items. The SALT tax, the state and local income tax deduction on your federal tax return, has been capped for the last few years at $10,000. And that was initially sort of a punitive measure for the high tax states that like California and New York and Massachusetts and such. Having grown up in New England, we used to kid that Massachusetts was really Taxachusetts. So that really limited taxpayers' ability to deduct state and local income taxes. Now that's going to increase from $10,000 to $40,000, and that's going to have a pretty big impact on consumer discretionary income because they'll be able to deduct 4 times the state and local taxes. So that'll incentivize large consumer discretionary purchases. It'll accelerate, I think, some people buying, consumers spending money on perhaps automobiles. I'll get to that in a little bit as well because there's a double incentive there. But you'll see the consumer discretionary purchases of large dollar items start to happen. The other impact is even in the non-state tax or non-high state income tax states, you're going to see some benefit in increased consumer discretionary income through being able to think about some states like Texas, where we are now. We have pretty high property taxes. And that's going to push some folks over the $10,000 limit. Now they'll be able to deduct 100% of what they're spending in property taxes and other local taxes, which will net increase the consumer discretionary money available for spending. So that will push a little bit there. The other one is, and this was really interesting when I got to read it, auto loans are now going to be, auto loan interest is going to be tax deductible now. And that combined with the elimination of the EV tax credit of $7,500 is meant to stimulate auto production here in North America and get us consumers to go buy that new car, that new truck. They are definitely disincentivizing buying the ones that you plug into the wall. Now, what's going to happen there, and here's the opportunity for small business, is as that stimulates auto production and auto consumption, because consumers are going to decide, well, okay, I'll buy the new truck now or the new car now because I can deduct the interest. Where it'll help our clients is a lot of our customers in our target market are in the supply chain for the big manufacturers. There's a lot of auto production that happens here in Texas, particularly up in the DFW Metroplex. And there's going to be a lot of small suppliers that are potential customers of ours that will benefit from that. So, that I guess is the 5 points I wanted to make on the big beautiful bill. I'm sure there's more stuff in there that we're going to learn over time, because as is typical with legislation in the United States, it's 9,000 pages, and it's going to take somebody with a PhD and a CPA to figure out what's really all in there. That's my thoughts on how that'll impact our client base.